Okay. Ayan. So last meeting, nag-discuss kayo face-to-face nila Sir Lawrence ng examples related to lab because again, the beauty of ecology is at least how we design the course is how connected the lecture and lab classes are. So hindi pwedeng alam nyo lang i-distinguish ang subsamples, ang replicates, ang sampling design using examples na meron kay Hurlburt or sa textbook, pero dapat kaya nyo rin siyang magawa sa mga klase na ginagawa natin. So, because of that, I think hindi kayo nagkaroon ng time para i-review yung mga pre-recorded lectures. So, that's what we'll be doing today. So, just like in our previous sessions, I'll be posting a question. I hope that we can have 1 to 3 members of the class provide their answer to that question. And in the absence of a student who would volunteer to answer the question, we will move forward to the next question at hindi ko necessarily sasagutin yung tanong. So our policy for ecology is give and take. It has to be a discussion, hindi lang kinukwentuhan ko lang kayo, pero nag-interact din tayo to maximize how we learn from this class. So for my first question for today, let's say naggagawa na kayo ng thesis and it's about identifying the amount of dissolved oxygen in a river. So pinag-collect kayo ng thesis advisor nyo ng water from 3 different randomly selected points in the river. Kasi alam nyo na kung gaano ka-importante ang randomization and how it reduces bias. So from each bucket na kinuha nyo, so kumuha kayo ng timba, nilubog nyo sa ilog, kumuha kayo ng tubig, kumuha kayo ng 4 oxygen measurements using BOD bottles. So BOD are specialized bottles that we use to determine dissolved oxygen. So ang objective ng study nyo is to determine the average oxygen level in the river. How many replicates and how many subsamples do you have? Okay. Do we have volunteers? Okay, yay! Hindi ko na kailangan mag-countdown. Sige, let's start with Mark, followed by Mariah. So Mark, go ahead. What's your answer?
I think po, Doc, it has 3 replicates and 4 subsamples per replicate po.
Okay, thank you for that, Mark. Mariah, do you agree or disagree with Mark?
I agree po with Mark that it has 3 different replicates po and 4 subsamples per replicate.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Mariah. So wala nang nagtaas ng kamay, so I'm assuming most of the class would agree with Mark and Mariah, or hindi niyo sure kung paano nila nakuha yung sagot na yon. So I would like to confirm that both Mark and Mariah are correct. There are 3 replicates in this study. The 3 replicates are the 3 buckets that were taken from 3 random points in the river. And meron tayong 4 subsamples per replicate. And yung 4 subsamples na yun ay yung 4 na BOD bottles na nakuha from each bucket. Kasi ang kailangan nating laging tandaan sa isang experiment, yung objective ang nagde-determine ng unit of replication. Okay, so in this case, yung objective natin is the river. So kung ilang beses tayong kumuha ng independent measurements across the river, yun ang nagde-determine ng replicates. Okay, let's go for another example. So let's say meron kang study, gusto mong i-compare yung 3 types ng fish food. So fish food A, fish food B, and fish food C. So yung mga researchers, naglagay sila ng 100 tilapia in one tank. So yung isang tank, fish food A lang. Yung pangalawang tank, fish food B lang. Yung pangatlong tank, fish food C lang. And let's say siguro meron ding control tank na yung usual na fish food yung binibigay. Tapos, mineasure nila yung growth ng tilapia per tank. So, in this case, nung nireport na ng scientists yung study, yung bawat isang fish ang tinreat nila as a replicate. So, anong problema sa design na ito? Okay, pwede nyo rin namang i-argue na walang problema. But let me hear from maybe 1 to 3 volunteers from the class regarding what they think about the experimental design. 1, 2, Okay, Christine, go ahead.
Yes, I think po parang nasa isang tank lang po sila na parang they are not really independent po. Kasi po parang nag-share po sila ng same environment. Katulad po dun sa parang sa last time po na experiment po na yung mga plants po na iisa po nasa iisang pot lang po.
Okay, thank you for that, Christine. Do we have another member of the class who would like to agree or disagree with Christine's answer? 1, 2. Okay, Zell, go ahead.
I agree with Christine po and that the tilapia per tank po are actually subsamples of one replicate.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Zell. So I agree with Christine and Zell. The design as described right now is pseudo-replicated. So the tanks, not the individual fish, should be considered the experimental units. So yung tanks dapat yung replicates. Kaso isang tank lang per treatment, kaya unreplicated yung study. Tas kaya siya naging pseudo-replicated kasi yung subsamples ay tinreat as replicates. Okay, so again, because each treatment has only one tank, the design is unreplicated, and then any differences that we see from each of the tilapia could be due to confounding variables like temperature or light rather than food type. Okay. So sige, napagalitan na daw yung mga students na nagagawa ng thesis na ito. So binago naman nila yung experiment. So this time, 4 tanks per food type naman daw, with each tank placed randomly in the room, and then 25 fish randomly assigned to each tank. And then growth is averaged per tank. So why is this a better design? Okay, can anyone share with the class bakit mas okay na tong design na to? Ano yung parts niya na maganda? Okay. Miggy, go ahead.
This is a better design po because it doesn't have pseudo replication anymore. Instead, it has 4 replicates na in total because it uses 4 replicates po per treatment because it uses 4 tanks po per food type, and also because the fish placed po in each tank is properly randomized po and properly interspersed.
Okay, thank you for that, Miggy. Does anyone want to agree or disagree with Miggy? Miggy mentioned interspersion and randomization. So, anong part ng study ang nagpapaganda sa interspersion? Anong part ng study yung nagpapaganda ng replication? So, those are some of the things you might want to think about. So, anyone would like to pitch in their thoughts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Julia, go ahead.
Hello, Doc. I think that replication increases the accuracy of the experiment po. And when it comes to interspersion, if well interspersed po yung replicates, then we'll be able to create or formulate a conclusion that will be able to represent the population po.
Okay, thank you for that, Julia. So Julia was able to highlight that the increased number of replicates improve the accuracy. But so far, I think we still need to improve our concept of interspersion. But generally speaking, for this study, the design is better kasi may interspersion at meron ding independence between replicates. Kaya true replicate yung bawat isang tank ay dahil independently assigned yung treatment nila. So yung randomization ng fish at nung treatment ang nagpapaganda or nagkukos ng independence. Yung interspersion naman ay na-ensure kasi yung paglalagay ng tank doon sa loob ng room ay randomly assigned din. So, ibig sabihin, hindi iisa lang yung order ng treatments across each of the 4 tanks kung naka-block man siya. So, yung randomization ng fish, ng treatment, at ng tank tank location. Yun yung nagre-reduce ng confounding factors and it allows for proper independence. Kaya pwede nating statistical analysis yung results na ito. So if we can use the means, standard deviation, standard error, confidence intervals, and so on para mapakita yung tamang descriptive statistics ng study. Julia, do you have a follow-up question? Since your hand is still raised? Okay, no worries. Okay, next question. This time, nagsistart na tayong mag-move forward sa importance ng mga computations na ginagawa nyo dun sa study nyo. So, sa study na pinakita natin in the previous slide, meron tayong replicates, meron tayong subsamples. Why is it inappropriate na i-compute natin yung standard deviation from the subsamples instead of the replicates pag nag-analyze tayo ng experimental results? So, gusto ko lang i-remind lahat na when you're computing for the average, it's the average of your replicates that's important. And so if you have subsamples, you average the subsamples first, and then you average the averages. So I think na-experience nyo na yan dun sa benthic sampling methods. In-average nyo muna yung subsamples ng transect quadrat study, tapos in-average nyo yung averages niya para makuha yung average ng buong study. So, bakit kailangan i-average yung averages at bakit kailangan yung standard deviation kukunin sa replicates at hindi sa subsamples? Okay, anyone who would like to answer this question? Mariah, go ahead.
Try ko lang po, Doc. In my opinion po, it is inappropriate because subsamples only show variability within a single sample po, not the natural variation between the independent samples. While the standard deviation po should be based on replicates po to accurately reflect the real variation in the environment or treatment po.
Okay, so thank you for that, Mariah. So in Mariah's perspective, pag kinuha natin yung standard deviation sa subsamples, ang nire-represent lang nun is a variation within one replicate, but not the natural variation of the study. So does anyone want to add on to what Mariah said, or at least maybe explain it in your own words para mas madaling ma-figure out yung sagot sa exam? Okay, anyone? Clarice, go ahead.
Hi, Doc. I agree po with what Mariah said. And to add on lang, subsamples are just units to increase the precision of the result, pero it is not the actual experimental unit. And kaya yung gagamitan ng standard dev is the replicates mismo para makuha po talaga natin yung variability within the results and not just the units that improves the precision of the experiment.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Clarice. So, ang subsamples na improve niya yung precision within a sampling unit, but not necessarily representing the true variation of the study. So, both are correct. So, tandaan natin, ang standard deviation ay dapat kinocompute natin galing sa replicates, hindi sa subsamples. Kasi ang mga replicates ang nagre-reflect or nagre-represent ng totoong experimental variation. Ang subsamples, tandaan natin, minimeasure lang nila yung same experimental unit. So parang bawat isang replicate, fina-fine-tune lang niya. So it only provides information about measurement precision. Kung gaano ka-precise yung measuring tool natin, hindi yung precision ng study site, ng ating domain of study. So hindi niya nire-represent ang biological or treatment variation. So, pag ginamit natin yung subsample variance, nami-misrepresent natin yung reliability ng experiment. So, ang nagkakaroon na pangyayari ay pseudo-replication. Okay. So, I think medyo marami nang ready para sa susunod nating quiz na magsa-start in about an hour. But sige, para mas ma-practice pa tayo, one thing na kailangan yung tandaan in the context of experimental design, especially for ecological experiments, tandaan natin na nature is variable. Hindi siya copy-paste, no? Laging may slight variation bawat isang organism, bawat isang parte ng isang ecosystem. So, yung average, minsan, hindi siya enough para ma-represent natin yung actual na itsura nung ecosystem or even organisms na inaaral natin. So, tong statement na to na nakikita nyo sa screen, hina-highlight niya yung complexity ng mga ecosystems at ng mga organisms at na dapat talaga ina-expect natin na merong variability. So, ano-ano ba yung implications ng idea na to? First, we have to remember that ecosystems are naturally diverse kasi nai-influence siya ng maraming factors. May spatial variation, may temporal fluctuations, meron ding species interactions. So pag nag-focus lang tayo sa pagtingin sa averages, na-obscure natin yung important patterns or dynamics within the data. So for example, kung ang meron lang tayong nakikita ay average temperature ng isang araw or ng isang linggo, hindi niya na-describe yung fluctuations ng temperature na yon, kung gaano ba kainit at gaano ba kalamig ang na-experience sa isang lugar. So, through that, important na meron tayong error bars sa data natin na pwedeng nire-represent standard deviation, standard error, or confidence intervals kasi yung fluctuations na yon, yung variation na yon, ay importante para maintindihan yung ecosystem. Now, another thing that we have to remember ay kailangan talaga natin ang variability pag nagsasampling tayo. When we create our experimental designs, we should be able to account for and also capture variability. So, ibig sabihin nito, kung gusto natin gumawa ng isang holistic na pag-aaral, dapat makakapag-sample tayo across different locations, different times, or different conditions para mas maintindihan natin yung buong scope ng ecological dynamics. So, kunwari, kung gusto nating maintindihan paano tumutubo ang isang species ng halaman, instead of measuring plant growth at just one site, dapat meron tayong experiments across multiple sites para ma-account yung soil, climate, tas pati yung neighboring species diversity na pwedeng nakaka-affect dun sa growth ng halaman. And so when we're studying, we have to look at distributions, not just means or averages, kasi averages can miss outliers, it removes variability, hindi niya pinapakita kung skewed ba yung distribution natin. And these outliers, this variability, yung skewed distribution, lahat sila ay pwedeng merong importanteng ecological significance. Kaya meron tayo dapat variance, standard deviation, and other statistical measures na nire-report kasama ng mean or average. So, for example, an average might suggest that a species thrives in an area, but a high variation could indicate that survival depends on specific microhabitats, yung mga outliers natin or specific conditions. And then, syempre, meron din tayong tinatawag na dynamic and stochastic processes. So, ecological processes na nag-exist, kunwari, predator-prey interactions, which we'll be doing with exercise 4, o kaya climate effects. These are often non-linear and dynamic, so marami siyang up and down fluctuations. So, understanding these processes would require examining yun nga, fluctuations, extremes, and trends rather than static averages. So, ang implications nun pagdating sa hypothesis testing is that tayo as researchers, we should avoid hypotheses that are based solely on averages and instead consider variability as an essential component of ecological responses. Okay. So ngayon, since medyo familiar na kayo sa kung paano ginagawa ang pag-aaral sa mga coral reef ecosystems, let's talk about coral reef ecosystems more. So, coral reef ecosystems syempre bias namin siya, nila Sir Al, as marine biologists. They are among the most dynamic and biodiverse habitats sa ating planeta. And napakaswerte natin dito sa Pilipinas kasi nasa atin ang center of marine biodiversity. So I think this is a big gift, but also a big responsibility for us. Kasi ang coral reef ecosystems, sila rin ang pinaka-sensitive to environmental changes and human impacts. Kaya yung statement na pinakita ko kanina, nature is variable and so the average is not enough, sobrang relevant niya sa coral reef monitoring kasi yung mga systems na ito ay hinuhugis ng napakaraming komplikado at variable na factors. Kasama na doon ang water temperature, light availability, nutrient levels, pati yung mga nutrients galing sa sewage, sa paglalaba, etc. And also, species interactions. So pag nag-average lang tayo ng data across time or space, naitatago niya or hindi niya naipapakita yung mga importanteng ecological patterns katulad ng localized bleaching events o kaya seasonal shifts o kaya even yung hinahanap-hanap namin na pag-emerge ng mga resilient coral species. So, para ma-effectively nating ma-monitor at ma-manage ang mga coral reefs, napaka-importante na makita natin yung natural variability na meron sa ecosystems na ito. So, hindi lang pagtaas or pagbaba ng coral cover ang gusto nating makita, pero gaano ba ka-variable bawat isang site. So, kailangan mas detailed, mas nuanced, no? Yung understanding natin ng kanilang response sa mga environmental stressors at long-term change. Pero syempre, para mas maintindihan natin ang mga corals, unang-una, kailangan alam natin na hayop sila ha. Corals are marine invertebrates kasi a lot of people think they're plants. Even worse, some people think they're just beautiful rocks. But they're actually animals, no? They're marine invertebrates that form symbiotic relationships with algae. So they contribute to a very, very vibrant, very diverse reef ecosystem. So sa atin, sa Pilipinas, ang napakaganda ng diversity in both form and genetics ng ating corals. We have over 500 species of hard corals alone. And yung itsura nila, they range from branching and massive forms to encrusting to foliaceous varieties. So yung napakagandang biodiversity na ito makes us a global hotspot for coral reef ecosystems. So definitely tourist spots sila. Pero isa rin silang source ng napakaraming importanteng information, lalo na pagdating sa unique genetic adaptations, kasi bakit ganito karaming species ang nagtathrive sa iba't ibang environmental conditions na meron tayo sa Pilipinas. Of course, ang coral reef, hindi na sila bago, no? Ito yung paa ni Sir. So what you're seeing right now are coral fossils. So pinapakita dito na isa sila sa pinakamatatandang ecosystems ng ating planeta. So with the first reef-building corals appearing over, I think, about 500 million years ago. 500 million years, no? Ganun na sila katanda. So sa ating bansa, in the Philippines, they've been developing for around 25 million years. At least yun yung edad ng mga pinakamatandang reef systems na meron tayo. So scientists learn about the history of coral reefs through the study of coral fossils. At sila yung nagbibigay sa atin ng valuable insights into ano ba yung environmental conditions nung past and paano ba talaga lumalaki ang reef over time. So tong picture na to, nasa Ilocos Norte siya, marami tayong fossilized corals. Yung iba, as in, daang metro, ang laki. And they've been offering us really good insight into yung ancient coral reef ecosystems na meron sa ating bansa. So nakakatulong sila para mas maintindihan natin yung geological history ng coral development in the Philippines. So, ayan, ito pa yung, pagpatayo naman, ito yung itsura nung ating coral fossils. So, ang isa sa mga kailangan nating tandaan is that corals grow very, 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 very slowly. Ang kanilang growth rate ay nagre-range from 10 to 13 meters per 1,000 years, depending on environmental conditions such as water temperature, light, and again, nutrient availability. So yung mabagal na growth rate na ito ay dahil sa nature ng coral skeleton formation kasi kailangan pa nilang buuin yung calcium carbonate skeletons nila over time, and they do this by secreting layers of limestone. So over time, yung layers ng limestone na ito ay nag-accumulate, kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng reef. So kami, as scientists, na-estimate natin yung age at growth rate ng coral reefs by studying coral fossils. Kasi nga, pinapreserve ng mga to yung growth layers, parang katulad ng rings sa puno. So yung fossilized skeletons na nakikita natin, they're often marked by annual growth bands. And so na-examine natin yun to determine the pace kung paano sila lumalaki. And pati na rin yung conditions under which they were formed. So yung age ng coral fossils can actually be estimated using radiocarbon dating, which measures the decay of isotopes in the coral material. So yun nga, in the case of the massive coral fossils na makikita natin sa Ilocos Norte, so far, ang approximate na edad nila ay between 6,588 to 9,855 years old. So by looking at the growth rings of these ancient corals, pwede nating makita gaano sila kabilis lumaki at ano yung mga environmental factors na nag-allow sa kanila na lumaki ng ganyan. So dahil sobrang laki nga ng fossils natin, ang ini-imply niya is that the reef ecosystem sa area natin, even noong unang panahon, thriving na talaga siya at mabilis ang paglaki niya. So this shows yung past marine conditions ng ating bansa at pati na rin yung longevity ng coral reef ecosystems natin. So, to make sure na nagkakaintindihan tayo ng tama, gusto ko lang i-clarify ang difference ng coral at coral reef. Ang coral, sila yung individual marine organisms, and yun nga, para mabuhay sila, kailangan nila ng calcium carbonate skeleton. Yung coral reef naman ay malalaki at complex structures na gawa sa mga pinagsama-samang colonies ng corals and other marine life. So coral, individual organism. Coral reef is an ecosystem made up of colonies of corals and other organisms. Okay? So kung titingnan natin ang isang coral reef, back. Meron siyang iba't ibang parts. So una is the reef flat. Okay? So this is the shallowest portion of the reef. Usually horizontal siya. Submerged siya during high tide. So marami kayong makikitang organisms dyan. May seagrass, may algae, may small inverts. And they provide shelter for juvenile marine species. So kung nakasama na kayo sa field trip ng sistema, most likely nakapunta na kayo sa reef flat dito sa Lian. Yung reef crest naman, ito sa gitna, it's the higher point. Sorry na yung nalaglag na mangga. Nagulat ako. Okay, anyway. Yung reef crest, siya yung highest point ng reef. Exposed siya during low tide. And yung lugar na to, malakas yung pagtama ng alon sa kanya. So it's characterized by strong wave action, and it's home to resilient coral species na kayang mag-withstand ng harsh conditions na ito. And then finally, itong deepest part na ito, siya yung reef slope. So yan yung steep area na nag-extend pababa from the reef crest to deeper waters. So kung napanood niyo yung Finding Nemo, siya yung portion na bawal languyin nila Nemo kasi palalim na, no? Marami na tayong nakakatakot na pwedeng makita dyan. maraming predators, ganon. So, the reef slope is usually where coral diversity tends to be highest, with many different coral species thriving in various depths and light conditions. Mga scuba divers, medyo nakaka-distract yung reef slope kasi minsan sobrang lalim mo na pala pag hindi mo binabantayan yung depth mo, yung dive computer mo. Ang lalim mo na pala kasi kung ano-ano yung nakikita at nakaka-distract sa'yo. So, it can be very distracting and very dangerous. So, yun. Ang nakakatuwa sa picture na ito, kita niyo yung label sa baba, wala pang drone nung panahon na pinicturean tong image na to. So, this was actually taken using a camera from a kite, as in saranggola. So, nagpalipad ng isang malaking saranggola yung team nila Sir Al sa Mindoro Occidental and nakuhanan yung picture na ito. Okay? So, isa sa mga pinakamalalaking problema na kinakaharap ng ating coral ecosystem right now is coral bleaching. So, kita nyo sa picture na to, maraming corals na puti. And pwedeng kung nag-snorkel or nag-beach na kayo in different parts of the Philippines, marami kayong nakitang namumuting coral. So, hindi dapat puti ang coral. Pag namumuti ang coral, nabibleach sila. And this occurs when corals expel the symbiotic algae that's living in their tissues. And ginagawa nila ito pag stressed sila. So, sana kung ganun din ang mga tao dahil fascinated tayo sa fair skin. Sana pag stressed tayo, namumuti din tayo. But no, corals lang yun. So, ano ba ang nagkukos ng stress sa mga corals? Di syempre, Ecolgen. De joke lang. Di sila nag-aaral ng Ecolgen. Nasa-stress sila dahil sa mainit na tubig, elevated sea temperatures, increased acidity in the environment, stress sa tao kasi may umaapak sa kanila, ganun, para lang ma-Instagram, mga ganun, no? So, the stress causes them to turn white kasi ine-eject nila yung symbiotic algae na kasama nila. So, problematic siya kasi pinapahina niya yung corals. So, it makes them more vulnerable to disease and also to death. And this disrupts entire reef ecosystems. So, kailangan nating ma-monitor ang coral cover at para matrack natin yung health ng coral reefs over time, para ma-identify natin anong coral reefs ang at risk, at para mas ma-inform ang conservation efforts na kailangan para maprotektahan at ma-restore ang coral ecosystems bago umabot sa point of no return. Yung parang wala na, sira na, so talo na tayo, hindi na tayo sumakses. So, a lot of the studies, katulad nung napagdaanan nyo na sa benthic sampling methods, so ginagawa talaga namin yan pero pwede namin siyang gawin using free diving, pwede rin namin siyang gawin using scuba diving. So, legit kung ano yung pinagawa namin sa inyo, na yun talaga yung ginagawa namin sa field, except syempre nababasa kami at pwede kaming malunod. But I think there's an interesting question that one of your classmates want to ask. Please don't be shy, don't ask in the chat. Maybe you can unmute and ask. Yung tungkol sa earthquakes? Don't be shy. Go ahead.
Ay po, Doc. Random question lang po kasi a few days ago, kasi po may earthquake po sa LU.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if source of stress din po yung earthquake sa corals aside from the temperature of the water po.
Yes, thank you for that, Stace. So yes, earthquakes can actually cause stress to coral reefs kasi kung sobrang lakas yung pag-alog, they can break coral branches, pwede nilang matopple or mabagsak yung coral colonies and heads, especially yung mga medyo fragile na. Nagkakaroon din actually ng landslides underwater. So pwede nitong malubog or mabury yung reefs under sediment. Tapos, kung matindi enough yung earthquake na magkakaroon ng uplift or subsidence, yung seafloor, so may portion ng seafloor na aangat, pwede niyang ma-expose yung coral to air, maiangat siya ng sobra, so it can cause drying and death. Pwede rin silang masubmerge. ng mas malalim. So, hindi na magkakaroon ng photosynthesis. But generally speaking, for yung mga earthquakes na hindi ganun ka-intense, ang pinaka-problema dyan is pag umaalog yung lupa, nasi-stir up yung sediments. So this can smother, nalulubog, natatakpan niya yung corals, nababawasan din niya yung light penetration. So na-affect nun yung photosynthetic partners, yung zooxanthellae, na nakadikit sa corals. Pwede ring ma-affect ng underwater earthquakes yung local water chemistry kasi pag nagkaroon ng vent, like magkaroon ng hydrothermal vent na magre-release ng carbon dioxide and other gases, pwede niyang gawing mas acidic yung portion na yun. And pwede niya ring mabago yung water flow patterns dun sa area. So lahat ng yan, pwedeng ma-stress yung coral systems, especially yung mga less resilient na ecosystems. So far, dahil hindi naman ganun karami yung malalaking earthquake na naranasan na natin, walang masyadong papers documenting this. Pero isa sa mga pinaka-interesting na studies na na-encounter ko na before has something to do with yung Indian Ocean earthquake noong 2004 na nag-cause ng tsunami. So, siya yung medyo maraming papers talking about significant damage that's been caused by both the earthquake and the tsunami to coral reefs in the area. So, yun. So, thank you for asking about that, Stace, and I hope my answer has been helpful regarding your curiosity. Okay, so now that yun nga, yung mas familiar na kayo sa importance ng corals, mas familiar na kayo sa kung paano ginagawa ang sampling ng mga corals. Let's say, gusto kong aralin ang average coral cover ng reef slope na ito sa Tubataha. So imagine niyo nagda-dive tayo sa Tubataha. And ang gusto kong method na gamitin ay transect. Kasi ang bigat magbitbit ng kwadrat sa ilalim ng dagat. So I created these 1, 2, 3, 4 transect lines kasi mukha lang siyang maliit ha, pero sobrang laki niyan. Yun lang yung kakayanin ng hangin namin sa loob ng tangke. So, is the sampling, this random sampling that we did, does it cover the domain or is this representative of our study domain? So, yes or no? Can we hear from maybe 3 people in class? Is our sampling domain okay? 10? 9? 8? 7? 6? 5? 4? 3? Hala, ayaw niyong mag-guess. Okay lang ba? Kunyari yan yung buong reef. Yung picture yung buong reef. Tapos ito yung 4 na transect lines na randomly pinlace namin. Is the sampling domain okay or not? Any guesses? 5. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
For me lang, miss, I think okay naman yung sampling domain kasi yung mga transect lines, nai-hit niya yung parts ng iba't ibang reef, mas lalo na po sa deep and shallow part po.
Okay. Sige, thank you for that, Mark. Sheena, do you agree or disagree with Mark?
I also agree po since the transect lines not just covers kunwari yung 100% na may coral reef, meron din pong parang no coral reefs and let's say parang 75% there's presence of coral reefs po. So yun po. It balances po.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, kung matatandaan nyo sa exercise nyo sa lab, ang coral reef, hindi siya punong-puno ng corals, no? Ang reef may portions na may buhangin, may portions na may giant clam, may portions na bato-bato lang. So, hindi siya necessarily dapat laging nakapatong sa corals. So, in this case, our sampling domain is representative of our study objective and inference space. Kasi, yun nga, randomly distributed siya throughout your study site and hindi nakapatong lang sa isang uri ng portion ng reef, no? Hindi lang sa portion na puro buhangin, hindi lang sa portion na puro corals. Paano kung nung nag-randomization ako, ganito yung nangyari? Is my sampling domain still okay? Again, these 4 transects are randomly generated, pero for some reason, dun lang sila pumunta. Is my sampling domain okay or not? Anyone? 10? 9? 8? Maxine? And then Zell and then Miggy. Okay, so
Miss,
Maxine, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I feel like it's not okay po kasi it's not evenly distributed po.
Okay, so Maxine says it's not because it's not evenly distributed. Zell, how about you?
I agree with Maxine po na it's not okay kasi it's all clustered up in the yung area na may coral lang and not
Okay.
accounting for yung may sand.
Okay, and Miggy, how about you?
I agree po. I think that the transects are not properly random. The placement of the transects were not properly randomized, and I think this will cause po a bias in the results, and it will not be representative of the entire reef slope.
Okay, so your classmates are correct. The sampling domain does not match the objective and the inference space. Kasi lahat sila nagko-cover lang ng isang patch ng corals. Hindi siya distributed across your inference space. So, pag ganito yung nangyari sa randomization nyo, you might want to check your randomization system kasi baka biased siya towards one side. And yun nga, fix your algorithm for randomization and then re-randomize. Hindi bawal ang mag-re-randomize. Kaya kailangan meron din talaga kayong means to visualize yung results ng randomization nyo. Ginagawa usually yan sa preliminary testing. Para masigurado na maganda yung pag-cover nyo ng inference space. Okay. How about, paano kung ganito yung kinalabasan ng randomization? Okay lang ba yung sampling domain natin? So anyone who would like to argue about this particular sampling domain? Again, through randomization pa rin siya. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay, Maxine and then Stace, go ahead.
Miss, I think it's not okay pa rin po kasi as you can see yung mga lines po medyo nag-overlap po sila sa isa't isa. So it means po hindi po maganda yung data na makukuha natin there.
Okay, so for Maxine, the issue with this one is overlaps. Stace, would you agree or disagree with Maxine's answer?
I agree po na I don't think that it's an okay setup po because it's clustered din po. So, hindi po na take advantage yung interference space. But I think that the lines aren't that, what do you call this? Overlapping. It seems to be, what do you call this? It seems to be randomized. But ayun nga po, yung pagka-cluster niya, yung pagka-dikit-dikit po yung problem.
Okay, thank you for that. So for this particular example, the sampling domain also does not match the objective because they're clustered in one area. So there are overlaps, even though randomized pa rin siya. And the overlapping portions of your transect lines means that there are certain portions of the reef that are overrepresented. So pag multiple times kang nagko-collect ng data sa iisang lugar, na-overrepresent siya. So hindi mo nakaka-capture yung diversity ng buong lugar. So as much as possible, in your randomization system, kailangan ma-minimize yung overlaps ng data collection sites. Okay, baguhin naman natin yung objective. Let's say this time, gusto ko lang malaman yung coral cover nung coral patch na yan. Kasi let's say merong rare species dyan, so gusto ko siyang i-monitor over time. So kung yun ang objective ko, tapos ito yung randomization na ginawa ko, Is my sampling domain okay or is it bad? 10, 9, 8, 7. Sige, Maxine, go ahead.
Miss, I think it's okay po if that is the objective kasi what you're trying to determine lang naman po is within that specific area and yung lines po na transect naman po nila yung yung location na yun.
Okay, thank you for that, Maxine. Does anyone want to agree or disagree with Maxine? Okay lang ba siya or hindi siya okay? Given our new objective. 10, 9. Okay, Zell, go ahead.
I think po that the sampling domain is okay kasi the transects are well spread along the specified na coral area po.
Okay, so hindi nag-overlap yung transect lines. So both of them are correct. So the sampling domain matches the study objective kasi ang objective lang naman natin ay yung coral patch na ito. So as long as the transect lines are properly randomized, they're spread across the space, and there are minimal or no overlaps, then our sampling domain is good. What if ganito yung randomization na ginawa ko? Is their sampling domain good or bad? Okay, any answers? 1, 2, 3. Okay, Maxine, go ahead.
Miss, I think it's bad na po kasi as I said earlier, yung ano po natin dito, yung objective po natin is to determine the average coral cover in a specific coral patch. And yung transect lines po here, it goes beyond that certain location po. So, marami po tayong unnecessary data na hindi naman po natin hinahanap.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Maxine. And yes, Maxine is correct. Hindi porket marami kang replicates, okay lagi. Minsan, marami kang replicates, pero hindi naman yan na-address yung objective mo. So in this case, kahit layo-layo ang transect lines natin, since 3 out of the 4 transect lines fall outside of our domain, of our objective, useless na yung data na nanggagaling dun sa 3 transect lines. So dahil dito, pangit yung sampling design natin. How about this one? Again, our objective is to learn about that specific coral patch in Tubataha. Pag ganito ba yung naging randomization nyo, is your sampling domain good or bad? Okay, nagtaas ulit ng kamay si Maxine, but maybe let's hear from some other member of the class. Okay, anybody else? Peter and then Trixie, go ahead.
I think very obvious po na in this example, hindi na naman po nag-a-align sa objective yung ginawang transects po. And if you look closely, dun po sa coral patch na yun, walang na-cover na inference space. 0% po.
Okay, so pangit daw according to Peter kasi lahat ng sampling natin outside ng domain. Who was the other one who raised their hand earlier? Trixie, go ahead.
For me po, I agree po with Peter kasi po nalayo na po yung main objective natin, which is yung kukunin yung average po dun sa specific coral patch.
Okay, so correct, both for Trixie and Peter. Dahil none of our transects fall within our sampling domain, pangit na talaga yung experimental design. Useless lahat ng data natin kasi hindi niya nabibigay sa atin yung important na information pagdating dun sa coral patch na gusto nating aralin. So sige, baguhin natin ulit ang objective. This time, gusto naman nating malaman yung coral cover doon sa lahat ng coral patches ng slope na ito. So, ang coral patches dito, ito tong dark spot na meron sa taas, coral yan. Ito coral to, coral tong portion na to, and then coral tong portion na to. So, kung nag-randomize ako at ganito yung naging itsura ng aking randomization, is my sampling domain okay? Can anyone share with the class? Again, nagbago na naman tayo ng objective. Is our sampling domain okay? Okay, apart from Maxine, who else wants to recite? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, Maxine and then Zell. Go ahead.
Miss, I think it's not okay po kasi it focus mostly on the parts na may corals na. So I feel like magkakaroon ng bias here.
Okay, so thank you for that, Maxine. How about you, Zell? What do you think?
I'm unsure po, pero I think it's okay because
Mhm.
it accounts for all the different patches po. Siguro yung concern ko na lang po is that there's only like one transect per patch, pero 2 po sa top left. Parang baka mas skew lang po.
Okay, so thank you for that. So we have two opposing views. One says it's not okay, one says it's okay. I think we need a tiebreaker. Can we have someone else answer if this is okay or not okay? Okay, Stace, go ahead.
I think na okay lang po siya kasi nako-cover naman po yung mga coral patches na isa-sample po.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Stace. So again, balikan natin yung objective. Ang important sa objective natin ay coral patches lang. Hindi natin gustong aralin yung areas na walang coral. So in this case, meron tayong coral patch sa taas. Actually, meron tayo dito na tatakpan lang ng heart. Meron dito and meron dito. So since our transect lines, in the way we randomized it, all fall within coral patches, this is relatively okay. But I also agree with the concern na, hala, bakit dito dalawa, tas dito sa dalawang to tig-isa lang? Maybe we can play around with the randomization to make our transect lines more evenly distributed. But generally speaking, kung ganyan talaga yung lumabas, then yes, this sampling domain is okay. It matches our study objective. What if ganito yung kinalabasan ng ating randomization? Again, ang goal natin ay aralin ang coral patches ng slope na ito. Tapos nung nag-randomize ka, ganito yung itsura. Is our sampling domain okay or not? Okay, anyone? One? Okay, Clarice and then Maxine. Go ahead, Clarice.
This sampling domain is not okay po because it is not aligned sa objective natin, which is all the coral patches lang yung need i-consider. And there's this term po in lab that I encountered, which is the ecological density. Since ito po yung objective natin, we only need to examine the population na merong habitable space. And in this sampling domain, we can see na yung transects, hindi lahat ay nasa coral patches. So, hindi po okay yung sampling domain niya.
Okay, thank you for that, Clarice. Maxine, do you agree or disagree with Clarice?
I agree po. Same what you said earlier po, Miss. Yung kailangan lang po natin i-measure is yung sa coral patches with regards to our objective. And as you can see po, meron po mga transect lines that are not within the range po. Thank you.
Okay, good job. So they're both correct. If you look at the scope of our objectives, our only concern are coral patches. But as you can see from the slide, we have at least two transect lines that have significant portions falling outside the coral patches. And so because of this, our sampling domain does not match the objective. So we have one more example for this. So, nag-randomize ka ulit. Ganito yung itsura ng randomization mo. Again, ang goal natin is to study all the coral patches in this slope. Is our sampling domain okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, Maxine and then Zell. Go ahead.
Yes, I think it's very obvious naman po na hindi siya okay kasi very ano po siya, very close together. So ibig sabihin there's something wrong with the randomization. As well as the problem here din po, hindi po siya na-represent yung all the coral patches in this domain po. Yun lang.
Okay, thank you for that, Maxine. And then Zell, how about you? What do you think?
I agree po with Maxine na the transects are like clumped up together or malapit na sila mag-overlap. Pati na rin po na parang may di pinapansin na coral patch sa bottom right. So hindi po siya for all the coral patches in the slope po.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So kung ang resources lang natin ay hanggang 2 transect line, okay sana siya. Pero meron tayong 4 na transect line. So as much as possible, we want our transect lines to be as distributed as possible given the domain that we're trying to study. So since ang gusto natin is all coral patches, sana merong transect na napunta dito. And I agree, sobrang lapit nila sa isa't isa. So even though hindi talaga sila exactly nag-overlap, they could also be over-representing specific portions of specific coral patches. So in this case, our sampling domain also does not match our objective. So kailangan nating baguhin yung randomization natin. Okay, so what I would like to point out with this series of questions is that minsan, para mas maintindihan nyo yung questions na lalabas sa exams, na lalabas sa quizzes, baka important na i-visualize nyo siya, i-drawing nyo siya, para mas makikita nyo, okay, tama ba yung pagkakagawa? Kasi dahil may pictures tong questions na ito, I can see that some of you find it easier to interpret. But of course, pagdating sa mga multiple choice questions, pagdating sa pagsusulat sa thesis, hindi laging may visual representation. So you might want to try and practice visualizing the questions that you will face in the future para mas maintindihan nyo yung question at yung procedures na tinatanong, and it makes it a little bit more systematic for you to move forward. Okay, so now we move forward to, I think, the next recorded lectures. This time, with a little bit more focus on different sampling designs, blocking, and so on. So, sa mga discussions natin so far, ang pinaka-important is randomization. Kasi randomization allows for true independence of our sampling. So, kung ang pinaka-important naman pala ay randomization, bakit pa kaya na-imbento ang randomized complete blocks? Bakit hindi na lang completely randomized ang design natin? So, what is the purpose of blocking? And why is randomized complete blocks occasionally done? Okay, so bakit nga ba siya kailangan gawin? Minsan. Okay, anyone would like to answer? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sakto sa 10. Stace, go ahead.
For the purpose po ng blocking sa experimental design, I think it's important in an aspect na, kunyari yung sa coral reefs po, ay yung specific coral patch lang ngayon is yung nasa objective mo. So, dun ka po maglalagay ng mga transect lines and hindi dun sa sand lang po. So, maaano po siya sa objective mo na sa coral patch lang yung transect lines po.
Okay, so it has something to do with the scope and also with the natural variability. So blocking, so tama, medyo close, very close yung answer ni Stace, no? It's used to control variability whenever we're doing experimental designs. And usually yung variability na yon are caused by known but uncontrollable external factors. So if you're dealing with a coral reef, hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin dun sa coral reef, hoy, tanggalin mo yung buhangin dyan sa portion na yan. Hindi natin pwedeng gawin yun. So in a randomized complete block design, usually ginugroup natin ang experimental units into blocks that are homogeneous with respect to these external factors. Kunyari, alam ko sa area na to puro buhangin. Alam ko sa area na to puro coral. O kaya kung dun sa farm, sa area na to alam ko laging may araw. Dito sa kabila, laging walang araw. O kaya sa area na to, mataas ang moisture, sa kabilang area hindi. So each block would contain all treatment groups in a randomized order. And so naa-allow natin na yung effect ng blocking factor to be accounted for. And so nami-minimize niya yung impact dun sa treatment comparison. Okay, so yun ang importance ng block design. Ginagamit natin siya pag merong natural variability yung environment na hindi natin kayang i-control. Okay, yun ang kailangan yung tandaan. So, ilagay naman natin siya sa isang example. Let's say, gusto kong aralin yung effect ng 3 uri ng fertilizer pagdating sa pagtubo ng bigas. Meron tayong isang field kung saan may isang side, may ilog, sa kabilang side, wala. So, paano natin gagawin yung research design, yung experimental design, para ma-minimize yung bias ng river? Again, gusto kong malaman yung effect ng fertilizer. Meron akong 3 uri. Meron akong isang field. Yung isang side exposed to river, yung kabilang side hindi. Ano yung pwede kong gawin sa experiment ko para ma-minimize yung bias ng river? Okay, anyone? One, two, three, 4, 5. Hey, Clarice, go ahead.
So if I remember correctly po, and if I understood it correctly, this is an example of mensurative experiment where there is a variable na we can control. And to account for that, we need to average the number of samples that is exposed to that uncontrolled variable. For example po, 70% of this sample is exposed, then yun din yung magiging number of replicates natin for that area. And then the remaining 30% for the unexposed area po. Ganun.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Clarice. So Clarice basically described to us a way in such that nagkakaroon tayo ng blocking by dividing the field into blocks or rows that are parallel to the river. So kung 70% ng field ay malapit sa river, yun yung blocks na naapektuhan ng river. So each block should experience similar moisture levels. Now, within each block, pwede tayong maglagay ng fertilizer treatments, lahat ng 3 in a randomized way, para ma-make sure na independent sila sa isa't isa. So, this setup actually forms a randomized complete block design, ensuring that the river's influence ay even ang distribution across treatments, and so hindi nababias yung results natin. Okay, so one last actually before your quiz for today. So let's say merong heat wave. Nautusan kayo ng DENR to determine the average surface temperature. Hindi, wag pala DENR. Nautusan kayo ng Sustainability Office ng Lasal to determine the average surface temperature of our parking lots. The building next to it casts a large shadow over part of the area. So what sampling strategy should you use and why? So again, merong heat wave, nautusan kayo ng Sustainability Office na alamin yung average surface temperature ng ating parking lot. Yung building sa katabi niya ay nagkakast ng malaking shadow over the parking area. So what sampling strategy should you use and why? Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, Zell, go ahead.
Hi po. If the shadow, it's covering a large part of the parking lot, let's say 70% po, and then 30% is unshaded. I guess what they could do is they get 70% of the samples from the shaded part and then 30% on the unshaded part, pero randomized po within their respective areas po.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Zell. So Zell described a very good technique on how to account for this stratified system. So in this case, you need to divide the parking lot into two strata, shaded versus unshaded. So again, if 70% of the area is shaded and 30% is unshaded, dapat 70% ng random samples nyo, kunwari, meron kayong resources for 10 samples. So yung 7 samples nyo, dapat nag-record kayo ng temperature sa shaded area. And then yung 30%, let's say 3 samples nyo ay galing sa unshaded area. So this ensures that yung sampling nyo accurately reflects the heterogeneity of the study area and avoids biased temperature estimates. Okay, so that more or less wraps up the questions that I've prepared for you today. But before I close today's session, to give you the time needed for your third and last quiz for Module 1, do you have any questions or points of clarification? So silence means no questions, I guess. So if that's the case, we will be closing the Zoom room now to give you as much bandwidth as needed for your third quiz. So good luck with the quiz. This Thursday, promise, this Thursday na talaga, bar any kind of order from Malacanang, I will be there to see you face-to-face in class. So thank you so much for attending today's session and see you on Thursday. Maraming salamat po.